Keiichi? Keiichi? Just leave him alone. Friends went missing. Must be really hard for him. Normally, my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did. Didn't Keiichi stay home from school for a while too? I think it would be safer not to go until the police do something like this. Maybe, yeah. Compared to what could happen, taking a few days off wouldn't be a idea. Anyway, how is it logical not to close school during such a dangerous situation? What do those teachers think our children are? Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the fruit in front of me, the time and date, myself. I really had no interest in anything. This feeling was like a dead fog in my mind. Felt like getting dizzy or taking strong medication. Keiichi, how are your studies going? You've gotten further than the other kids, haven't you? If you have, then you can take a few days off, alright? I didn't even feel like answering. Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time. Yet now, things were completely different. Everything had changed. Tranquil village. Bright and clear as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night. You couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny, little, and incredibly stupid curiosity. Broke the taboo. This isn't somewhere we should be going, is it? It's not. It's a crime to force your way into a locked building, even if you don't steal anything. Gion, now that you know they weren't having some secret rendezvous, you've had enough, right? I don't want to do something like this. What if Rika-chan's dance ends while we're messing around here? I prattled on as I took the lock from Tomitake-san's hands, put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on, let's go, let's go. Takano-san was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomitake-san grinned painfully. Gion's shoulders drooped as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then, at last, the dance brought to a close with a roaring applause. I, too, though my hands turned red, I clapped, and I clapped. Ding dong. Isn't that Nana-chan? She's here because it's your usual meetup time, isn't she? I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past. Time to meet up with Nana. Keiichi, didn't you take a few days off from school? You're right. Thanks for being so considerate. I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet Nana. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today, so you can't be late. Ah, that's right. We, the ones farthest away, were to be late. The younger kids on the way there would be waiting for us. I think I'm gonna take some time off. Cool. Okay. And I answered shortly, nodding. I think you should do whatever's best for you, Keiichi. You don't need to feel that you're weak or anything. Oh, and Here, the notice they're sending around. You give it to your mom? I think it has a lot of important announcements in it. I took the notice. There were a lot more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan and Satoko, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache. The police are looking as best they can, too. They'll find them for sure. Just be patient, okay? I said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Other than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe. Going to question. Oh. No, you. No, don't you. About that night, do you mean when you snuck into the ritual storehouse? I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little. So it's all out in the open. Really didn't do bad things. I was really mad. Oh, she was upset. I suppose she would have been. I don't think she was as angry about you sneaking around in there though, much as you hiding it from her. Maybe Kei-chan, maybe you should have told her yourself and apologized. I should have told her myself. Apologize. That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I, myself, should have apologized to me for. I had hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion about it. Rena, you're right. Never realize anything until you tell me. Hey, Chico. Hypothetically, if you had admitted something you'd done right away, apologized to Micho, I wonder if Rika-chan and Satoko-chan wouldn't have had to disappear. I couldn't answer right away. Couldn't do that. Wasn't Nana telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crime sooner? If I had done that and apologized, things not have gone in such a horrible direction? And his eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for smiling. They stared fixedly down. Yeah, right. I admitted my crime. Wouldn't have to die, disappear. Smack! The palm of Rena's hand smacked me and slapped me in the cheek. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all. I don't think that anyone has scolded you, so I'll scold you in their place, okay? I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment. Quietly stared down at Nina's feet. Going somewhere you're not allowed to go was a very bad thing to do. You understand that? Uh-huh. Answer me with a yes. Hey, Chico. Yes. Also, what's even worse, you didn't admit to having done something so bad. You should never do anything bad in the first place, but not admitting to it or apologizing for it is much, much worse. Yes. I was wrong. For a few moments, Rena stared at me, silently and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Then, finally, the tension in her face softened. She smiled. Okay then. It's about time. I should be going. Alright? Be sure to give the notice to your mom, okay? Also, warn her not to go out to pass it on after it gets dark. Got down to pick up the notice, which I dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the clasp and were now making a mess on the floor. Gathered them up one by one. My hand stopped at a single, more light-hearted page, with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the SONOZAKI's house if you want some. What is this? I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from faraway relatives in the Akita Prefecture. They had gotten a big shipment. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted it to feel free to come over. What it said. As a PS, it said it arrived in barrels, and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or other container for it. That's how it tied together. If you need some soy sauce, then you would go to the SONOZAKI house. Rena, did you know all along? Yeah. No. Had already been suspicious of Mion, as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Rika-chan taken the bottle on to Mion's house. There, he was erased. Rika-chan wasn't coming back, so Satoko called Mion's house, and since she knew where she had gone, and Satoko got called there as well. At meeting on the day the mayor disappeared, didn't ooishi-san say? The 3 families would include the SONOZAKI family. They also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir, Mion, frequently stood in for her at public appearances. While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and he made him disappear. Probably even simpler, make Jian disappear. Jian was part of the SONOZAKI family. He probably knew exactly what she was doing at all times. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Mort store managed by the SONOZAKI family? Getting an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all. I'm going to Mion. I'll go apologize. I'm going to have her put an end to everything. Probably won't forgive me easily, but I'll go and ask her not to sacrifice anyone else. With that decided, no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house. She stopped me. I'm going too. Rena, shouldn't you go to school? This is way more important than school. Rena, you shouldn't come. Got wrapped in this too. And I think I might actually go crazy. And I didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way. Ichiko disappeared as well, and I think I might actually go crazy too. So I won't let you go alone. And I argued boldly, as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them, and I knew the strength of her resolve. Alright, let's go. Thank you, Minna. Minna nodded slightly, but firmly. And finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go. Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. After that, I'll pray. But once more, return to those fun, happy. By not following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. It was Oishi's. Hey, good morning. My boss-san, to you too, Yugu-san. Together so early in the morning? We jealous. What a truly praiseworthy man he was if he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking. On this morning, though, maybe this was actually a good opportunity. From the police. Oh, have I not introduced myself to you, Ryugu-san? Please excuse my rudeness. My name is Oishi from the Okonomiya Police Department. Pleased to meet you. Are we telling Oishi? Yeah. I think my palm is enough punishment for your crime, Keiichi-kun, but we should leave Michan's to these people. Pain, sadness. I looked down as those emotions built up in my heart. We have something to tell you, Oishi-san. Well now, what about? Should we stand here and talk or go inside the car? In the car, please. I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Rena was. At Rena's urging, I revealed everything to Oishi-san. The latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention every now and then, took notes. Continued that way for a while. How do you feel? Don't you feel a lot better now that you've told me? Oishi-san asked this while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. Of course I don't feel better. The price that had been paid up until now for me to not owning my crimes, so immense. For as long as that payment wasn't returned, that load on my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static. This is Kumitani. Oishi-san, over. Yes, hello, this is Oishi. We got news a few minutes ago that she's been absent from school. No movements at the SONOZAKI house. Our target is still on the premises. Yes, good. Keep a close watch out. Roger that. Cars 3 and 7 just arrived for support, and we return to base. Also, I think the division chief is looking for you, Oishi-san. He keeps annoying me too, even though I keep telling him I'm trying to get in touch with you. What should I do? If you're hard-pressed for an answer, telling him you're actually under orders not to wake me from my morning nap. Got it. Ryo grew silent. Sorry about that. It was about work. He just said there was no movement at the SONOZAKI house, didn't he? Oh my, did it sound like that to you? This won't do. Please keep that a secret, alright? I don't have permission from the division chief to be making private inquiries like this. Oishi-san, I've suspected Mion for a long time. Nor for questioning witnesses or for searching houses. We don't have permission for anything, really. Sonozaki House's defenses said to protect the family's members are also in full working condition. Without a warrant, you can't do anything about anything unless the crime happens right in front of us. Oishi-san, could you be? Rena's tone of voice alone was enough to make her spite clear as she stared at Oishi-san. Can't set foot in the Sonozaki house. Were you trying to get Keiichi-kun to go in there instead? Rena, that's... What do you mean? This person. I thought he plays really dirty. Stop, you're hurting my reputation. That said, I'm all ears to your explanation, okay? Oishi-san lit a cigarette and responded to Rena, wearing an expression that implying he was calm and willing to let her comment slide. Can't get a warrant, but you always had your eyes on Michan because you thought she was suspicious. Yes? Plotted to incite Keiichi-kun and have him go to the Sonozaki house. Then, if something were to happen to him, you would have used that. You would have used that as an excuse to go in. That right? I only understood about half of what Rena was saying. as it was so very complicated. I knew, however, that ooishi-san had been trying to use me. Even if Keiichi-kun got hurt as a result. Have you no shame? Is this how the police do things? My. It seems we have an incredible detective on our hands. Oh my, oh my. Would you be interested in taking our exam? I'd gladly write a recommendation to get you into the detective division. You are despicable. And it spoke quietly, the words dripping. I have been insulted in all kinds of ways in my life, but one or two words from a young girl is always the roughest for me. Even so, suppose I should thank you for not arresting Michan yet. Don't mention it. Ooishi-san seemed to be enjoying his exchange with Rena. The things this man thought were like a swamp. I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again. Oh, you're such a tsundere, Keiichi. Now then, as two esteemed friends of Sonozaki Mion-san, what do you plan on doing now? Will you wait kindly for me to go over the evidence and request a warrant? No, we won't wait for that. We'll go and make Michan surrender herself. That's right. Turned herself in rather than be arrested. She might get a later sentence at this point. Perhaps that was the only pity. I find it in me to report her. I see. I wonder if it will go that well. If you're careless, you too may face danger, you know. Ooishi-san was measuring our results. So in a strong voice, I declared, we're fully prepared. Ooishi-san gave us an unpleasant yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this man was trying to use us for his own convenience. Arriving at that conclusion about 10 minutes after Rena did. If anything should happen to us, use that as an excuse. So my greatest hope is that you will surround the place so that the criminal can't get away. Yugu-san, you are good at negotiating too. I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender. What are you talking about? If the policemen surround Michan's house, that will be insurance for the worst case scenario. For the worst case. Plus, it would be another way of pressuring Mion to give herself up, wouldn't it? Ooishi-chan, Kumatani, go ahead. Our two friends are going to play at the Sonozaki house. Make arrangements so that we can reinforce them if needed. Roger. Their altogether too short conversation implied that our questioning was already part of their... Then, let's get going. Want to buy some tea and biscuits on the way there? Neither Rena nor I went along with Ooishi-san's stupid joke. Ooishi stopped the car at the place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard that it's right down this road. This is as far as I can take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up on the premises. Still, don't worry. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them. Go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with a one-way mic, so if you two guys give a loud scream, we'll know right away. We'll persuade her for sure, so please be ready for her to turn herself in. In both our eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend. Be plenty careful, you hear? You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you two being sacrificed, if at all possible. I believe it! I believe in you, Mr. Delicious! You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I'd never have expected this would be happening today. Let's go. Jenna took the lead and began to walk down the road I'd never been. Jenna, You've been to Mion's house before, right? Yeah, a few times. It's a really big house. You could fit a mountain in their backyard, too. Pick mushrooms and stuff, though there are fences everywhere. Big enough to fit a mountain? That was amazing. One of the 3 families controlling Hinamizawa, and the head family of the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level, uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods, with trees growing thickly. Fences were high. The tops of them bent inwards, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there were dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family. Entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. This forest, or should I say mountain, is this all their yard? It's more like their domain. As you can see, it's private property, but no one maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you can go hiking in. You could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected, savage woodland. It was dark, damp, certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like ooishi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place, though they had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is watching us as we come to her. I don't think she is. The only people living in Mi-chan's house are generally her and her grandma, after all. There's nobody to watch the cameras. What a useless security system. Well, Mi-chan's father seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. Whenever everyone in the family is getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly. That's right, Mi-chan's father. He was a big shot Yakuza, wasn't he? Gonna smoothly dance around the answer, as he explained. At last, Kate, big as I'd imagined, appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother in a house? Such a grand gateway? Wonder if she's... Beep! The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? He waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously followed my hand, my palms now sweating with fist. There was the clang of a bolt being released and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion. Well, this is unusual. Aren't you two going to school? Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand. We stayed home today. Ei-chan is one thing, but you two, Rena? You two are such troublemakers. Mion smiled lightly in the way that the Mion we knew always did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena. Let's go. Rena smiled cheerfully, as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rally myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you think of when you hear mansion, but it was very clearly a vast. Was this the first time you've been here, Kei-chan? Yeah. This house is enormous. Deep thatched roofs aren't in fashion anymore. The place could be a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete soon. Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt. Don't worry about it. Things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, I shall show you inside. Please, come this way. Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly. H-kun, you're too tense. You came to see me? See me-chan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous. That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Ooishi-san's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us, too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself. What's this? Mion, what's with this stone on top of the newspapers? It's in the way. There's a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Anna noticed me looking at it questioningly and giggled. Anna, do you know? What is this? Some kind of good luck charm? If you don't really know, then feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there. Ha 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 ha! Ichi-kun, there's a nest of swallows right above that stone. Huh? Oh, you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission and make nests. It must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes, they always make a nest here. It's kind of annoying, though. In other words, decide to not take off your shoes here because swallow poop could end up in them. I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrivance. My laughter naturally spread to the other two. A really long time ago, the SONOZAKI family apparently cultivated silkworm. Our ancestors would get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. If you think of it that way, maybe this are just desserts. Anyway, come on in. The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysterious. Still feel elegant. Nice. Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. Kidding, right? There's a terrible draft, and winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance and getting in the way of renovations, got it? What I want most is a house like yours, Kei-chan. I'm pretty jealous of it. Seems like it would be warm in winter. Oh, but snowfall seems like... Snowfall's a problem. Does Jinamizawa get that much snow? Latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? Isn't this region warm? Haha, you don't know, Kei-chan? Yamizawa is in an area that gets heavy snowfall. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even get out of your house. Sometimes your car gets totally buried too, and you can't find where it is. I wasn't aware of that, Yamizawa. Is that bad a place in the winter? Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like, this place got plenty of snow, so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried? Not being able to find your car? That's way too much snow. Remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. Different from those softies protected by mountains, nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm totally okay with being a softie, nice and warm. I hate the cold. We'll have to have a training camp to get Kei-chan used to the cold this winter then. No way, there's no way that's happening. I hate the cold and I hate training camps too, and I hate them even more put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, and told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment. Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet our club will be a blast then. Club continuing activities through the winter sounds totally horrible. like swimming in the cold or marching in the snow, turn into Mount Redhorn. Definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season. One time, she made us have a Rio carnival in the schoolyard while snow was falling. I see the terror of our club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events. Snowball fights and shaved ice eating contests, treasure hunts in the snow. Wait, why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice warm room while it's snowing? Okay, Chico, if you're saying things like that, then you're gonna lose a lot this winter. We'll have lots of punishment games and Anna won't lose. Howl! Don't give me that howl! I settled things with a cross chop to the head. You're sure having fun. Our walls aren't very thick, so be careful not to go flying through any, okay? The paper sliding door opened, and Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set. Do you want sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry, we don't have much in the way of bean paste or other good stuff. It's okay, it's okay. We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway. And with those words, the smile disappeared from Rena. Ah, she did it. That one careless statement reminded us of what we had nearly been able to forget. I wanted time for a little longer, but she put an end to that with those honestly careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air, that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago, slipped through the crack of her door. All together. There was no point letting it now. Did not come here today. Chat. Curiosity. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word. Here you are. Drink up. You couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in it or anything. Do you distrust me that much? That's upsetting. Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders. We all remained silent. Hoping someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do. So we sat for a long. At last, Mion smiled scornfully over to me. Hey now, Gei-chan, Rena, you're the guest. Come here for something. If you don't speak up first, this old man won't know what to do. Rena and I exchanged glances. We both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her. Okay. I needed to come here. Let me talk first. Okay. I understand. What would Kei-chan have tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe? Ha 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 ha. Can't do that. My little Lena and Kei-chan aren't meant for each other. Go wash your face with miso soup and try again later. Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders. Mion, first, I have something to apologize for. You do? Of course. Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I'd clearly gotten my point across. Well, on the night of Watanagashi, the ritual storehouse behind the shrine, I went in there. I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be a little bit of exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. And so, I still shouldn't have done it. So, I apologize. I'm sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I meant it as my way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You got me on the ropes. I looked up, seeing that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly. You understand that, even though it was only a casual exploration for you, Kei-chan. There are a lot of people who think it's no laughing matter, and it's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's been days since then, maybe too late. I apologize. What I did was wrong. Please, forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. It's okay. If you know what you did was bad, then that's enough, right? Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it. Mi-chan, Eiichi-kun is apologizing seriously. I think maybe you should respond seriously as well. I am being serious, though. Do I not look serious to you, Rena? You don't. Rena was giving her tit for tat, so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. He was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it's not like he hasn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't. Eiichi-kun, get up now. Tell her everything. That looks like what Mi-chan wants. I had known we're not like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion, you called Rika-chan and Satoko the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it? It was evening, before dinner time. Rika-chan should have come here, bringing a big bottle of soy sauce, to have you share some with her. Mion was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit. Why do you think that? Not hard to understand. Mi-chan, you saw it too, didn't you? Rika-chan's room. Mion put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking. There was chilled tofu, but no soy sauce. Plus, the big bottle of soy sauce that should have been under the sink was nowhere to be found. What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion, drop the act. You wrote it yourself on the notice, didn't you? That you'd share your soy sauce? Mion scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. Oh. Found out she'd purposely given too little change to a servant. That's all I could feel from it. Then, Mi-chan, you hit her. Then I hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word of race. That she was struggling to find another word. That was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway. What are you talking about? You didn't foresee that Miko-chan would tell Santoko-chan that he was going to your house, did you? Then Santoko-chan called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, probably just like that. You sound just like her. Mi-chan, you were in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika-chan had come here. So you decided to lure Santoko-chan here too. Lure her out. Like how, I wonder? Mion prodded it out. of trying to get to the good part of the story. I, however, knew I had been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers and clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Anna was saying must have been a bullseye. It probably went like this. Satoko, I actually made too much dinner today, so why not come over and eat? Ika-chan came earlier and already ate some. Something like that. Mion's nails dug into her knee. There's no recordings of the phone conversations or anything, so how do you know that much? I know it because the dinner that Satoko-chan made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in their refrigerator and hadn't been touched. For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena. With just that to go on? Did you even guess what for the phone? A long explanation, so I'll get to the point. The contents of that refrigerator provided a vivid account of what you said over the phone when you lured her out. Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face. That's... I had no idea I had such an incredible detective right next to me the whole time. I believe you'd figure out everything down to the phone conversation from what was inside. You've got me there. Got me. Got me. As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true. An incredible detective, Ichan. You're the one who guessed what ooishi-san told us. He called me an incredible detective, too. As soon as she heard ooishi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly, so that anyone would be able to tell. Mion, the police have suspected you for a long time now. ooishi-san's officers have had the house under observation so that they could break in at any time. Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looks like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Lana's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house. Was the mayor Ichan too? Tomitake and San and Takano-san, you as well? Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. Impatience and wonderment in her expression disappeared. About to conduct a tease. I could sense it. It was now, in this moment. Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into SONOZAKI Mion, current heir to the SONOZAKI. The solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of the Mion I knew. Now I could believe. Now I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire city. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat, gave a beautiful, elegant bow, as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself. You meet for the first time. I am the current heir to the SONOZAKI house. My name is Mion. Hmm. Hmm. So, is she like, because, huh? When did, how old were they when the thing happened? Oh, I mean, like, I think I'm gonna reread this later, just when I. Anyway, let's not cut the flow. Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut. We couldn't even answer her. All Rena and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing. I would like to welcome you to the SONOZAKI main house today. I will greet you all in place of our leader, Oryo. It seems as though you have various things you would like to ask. If I can be of any assistance, then I would like to answer without concealing anything. Or is this just a distraction, or what? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There's also a strong light of resolve in her eyes. It's really alright if we ask anything then? I shall tell you everything I know. That is why you have come here. And I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now. Why would you do this? That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? It didn't go only for Rika-chan and Satoko, but for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomidake-san as well. No, even further back, for all the incidents that had been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question, if that is acceptable, however, then I would by all means like you to hear it. She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago. You know that Red on lightning shot me and glanced like I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa, if it's what's called, yes, I heard all about that from the Takano-san Ritual Storehouse. They firmly believe. Yeah. You know that Hinamizawa Village used to be called Onigafuchi Village? Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance, asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once called Onigafuchi Village. Yes, I heard all about it that night from Takano-san in the Ritual Storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages at the foot of the mountains and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right, our ancestors in Onigafuchi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worshipped and honored them. Nevertheless, that all decayed with the end of the Tokugawa era. The black ships arrived, the era of the samurai ended, the era of national isolation ended, and the tradition of worshipping Onigafuchi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became. The Meiji era began, and the name of Onigafuchi village, with its long history, was forcibly changed to Hinamizawa village. I have heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs, the abolition of feudal domains and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level as the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while old traditional things were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was. Our ancestors in Onigafuchi village were proud transcendents, descended from the demons. Onigafuchi village disappeared in a flash. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power, so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began, and they won war after war, the first Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, until the Pacific War broke out. They recklessly climbed the staircase towards modernization. Okay. At the time, Onigafuchi village had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers, once worshipped as transcendents, were now on the receiving end of inhuman treatment. The sacred Onigafuchi village had been groundlessly labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Thus began harsh days when one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onigafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot where they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces, and devoured. Never, ever go near the terrifying village of man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dry riverbeds and cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories, but said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onigafuchi village's historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end with only the perspective of the children. If anyone found out you were from Onigafuchi village, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. You would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. Even caused trials. They would appeal that where one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage. That's terrible. I've heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you subjugated to every societal disadvantage there was, a modern form of bullying. I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. While being suspicious about it and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan. Well, I suppose I can't say that they weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing through them. They lived their lives boasting about it and scorning those at the foot of the mountain, after all. They struck fear into the villagers down there with their mystique and demanded gifts of dread and tribute. With that, Mion smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was acting as one, those from Hinamizawa continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a different time. Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945. Hinamizawa had lost many male hands, but at last their fathers and husbands and sons returned to them. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Hinamizawa who were at their limits, barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing. MacArthur's GHQ set to work on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era. Hinamizawa was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again. Got to work, trying to make the village even a little more plentiful. During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader, Sohei Sonozaki. Sohei said that he managed food warehouses in Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the Seto Inland Sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property. So he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamizawa was revitalized after the war. I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who begrudged money coming from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization. The person at the middle of it all was your grandmother, Micha? That's amazing. What a great success. Yeah, it looked like she was honestly happy Reina had praised her. However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again. Because of the canned flesh incident. Canned flesh. It sounded so hideous that hearing it made me nauseous. Someone naming himself as my grandfather Sonozaki Sohei's superior confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh. Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans. They were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma of a light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives. Grew hazy and disappeared. A shocking truth as revealed by his former superior. A stolen provision from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival had been canned human flesh. Why wear their cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of food warehouses? The superior revealed that Sonozaki Sohei did not have the job of managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and to transport the corpses of those with infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment and all because of the lowliness of his origins. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institute. There, however, he found something even worse than the low, scorned, oppressing customs of Watanagashi village in the research carrying out. Could that have been, well, you know, bacteriological corp in the old Japanese army or whatever? Ichikun, you've heard of that? What could it be? I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims, how many days it would be when injected, how many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them. Decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outwards. Their intestines get pushed out of their... like a snake winding out of it. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. That makes me sick. At least still hate Hinamizawa, huh? You said it. Mion agreed with me, giving a faint, sad smile. There wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sohei was in did way kinder research than that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield. The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistance is lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. Apparently, that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields. It was very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control. Until finally, they knocked down a door they called taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? And I knew the answer without being told. But we didn't answer. That's right. They were researching ways to handle using humans as food. Fighting onward, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and sometimes that of allies, became the ultimate service paid to their country. They were deathly serious about this doctrine. It really is a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond that. Apparently he always thought about it too. Even if he was a vulgar, man-eating demon, they were far more ugly demons than he. But no matter how much he was scorned, he wouldn't put up with it. At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a circle. The starved soldiers on the front lines apparently loved all the prototypes they were sent. Among them, those who cooked it in soy sauce, like it was sukiyaki, loved it the most. Come on, Michan, stop. I'm getting sick to my stomach. Also, get to the... I mean, this is fascinating, don't get me wrong, but get to the point. Lana really was pale-faced and looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Mion looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there. Then those canned goods your grandpa brought back. I don't know if it's true. Sohei denied it was human flesh up until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Hinamizawa's sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune from selling human flesh, and the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children were be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them. The stifling silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated, and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know. My grandmother, the family head, once told the children of the village this. If they throw a stone at one of you, then two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they throw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was simple. If they throw stones at two of you, throw them back with 4. If they chase 8 of you with sticks, drive them off with 16. If they slander 30 of you, yell back with 60. Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple. If 1,000 people attack you, then everyone in Hinamizawa will stand up against them. was a manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose up not only as the leader of the Sonozaki house, but as the mother of Hinamizawa. It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when riots over the treaty with the U.S. were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Hinamizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Hinamizawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win. Gate-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with those delinquents in town? I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me. The people of Hinamizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved. My grandmother fought and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Hinamizawa. Of course, that peace had been placed on a razor's edge. When you consider the previous 100 years of history, the tranquility now can only be called a chance interval, standing on uneven scales. Why? Did I really have an opinion on such a long, difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yet I said it anyway. Why can't everyone just live in peace? What happened to those old stories of Oyashiro-sama that I heard from Takano-san? Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Oyashiro-sama who mediated between them wasn't. That why Oyashiro-sama's curse happens? A cool gust of wind blows in from outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully clear hair. Mion kept her refreshing smile without answering. It didn't change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Hinamizawa might once more be like Onigafuchi village, so that we may again be a sacred existence worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onigafuchi, and the mission of those who inherit the demon in the Sonozaki main family. Those who inherit the demon? For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of including the character for demon in the leaders' names. If you write out my name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I trace out the word Mion on the palm of my hand. Oh, he's right. The character for demon is in there, and only in my name either. The demon is engraved on my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing. It's okay, Michan. You don't need to show us, okay? Thank you. With just that exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved she inherited the demon. Mion didn't sit back down. She smoothed open the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Namizawa, no, of Onigafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mion like that? And I wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured. The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years, I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, but were rather related to the others, and the Kimiyoshi family and the Furure family. I think I was at the center of all of them. She said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew. I have faith in what I've done and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I will have to leave the stage before the air is decided. If I am caught and tried in a court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa at the most peaceful it's been in 100 years. Maybe the happiest thing that's ever happened to the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. Mion leaned a shoulder against the paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey, Mion, care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room. But Mika-chan and Satoko-chan, you killed them, didn't you, Michan? The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest, despite not being directed at me. I'm not saying that it's okay if you killed other people. Regardless, Michan, you killed Nika-chan and Satoko-chan. And his words were more biting than any I had ever heard. Even now that we all knew the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, he had criticized her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the... Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Nika-chan bore the duty of the Furude family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learned around last year that Nika-chan had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse door were too heavy for her, and she wanted to change them to a simpler lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was for Nika-chan. I will make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent towards Oyashiro-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, old man Kimiyoshi, is that difficult for you, Nika-chan? Then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were like his leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with old man Kimiyoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switched it to a really cheap and light. Old man is really alright. Grandmother says that if possible, we should keep the lock the same. It'll be alright. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility. You promise? You mean that you will take responsibility as the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, right? You should be well aware of how sacred the things inside really are. It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinamizawa who would open the lock and break in. Meow meow. Oh ho! Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat. I had already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Watanagashi festival. There were 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Nika-chan of the Furude family and old man Kimiyoshi, take responsibility. My tears dripped and dropped, until just now I had decided that it was Mion's fault that she killed Nika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion. It was me! What? I might as well have killed them. Ichigo. I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time I It stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse. Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days having lots of fun like we always did. I was an idiot. If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed. Hey-chan, you're not at fault. Mion gently began to speak to me as if trying to reason with me. As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act, but given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have just saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it, and that's why I killed those two. I, Sonozaki Mion, and nobody else killed them. And that sentence is what this whole long TLDR really was leading up to, wasn't it? For you to hammer that out. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. Gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all thoughts of fighting for my friends. So this is my crime. I killed them. Sonozaki Mion with these Sonozaki Mion hands, definitely these hands whose are of Sonozaki Mion, killed them, these hands of Mion's, and nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing! Her masochistic laughter was sad. Especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves to her, Sonozaki Mion, who she was. It was so painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition. Eh? I looked at her surprised, and I stuck her finger right at my forehead. You left Keiichi-kun alive. As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club. If she had seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people had been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other for some reason, I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you. What is that supposed to mean? Mion put a finger to her lips to say that, and I didn't need to talk. Is Ooishi waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? No. They said they have the place surrounded. It seemed like they called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. Mion fell silent, and his merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pains, if only a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please, bring yourself in. Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled, just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Crying children and Lena are the only things I can't beat. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion. I'm well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. Couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large. So much that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel. So I'd like you to hear one last selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes is fine. Just let me have some time alone with Kate-chan. Huh? My name suddenly came up, and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that. Kate-chan, is that okay with you? you don't want to, then I won't make you. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon. And Kei-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, so long as Oyashiro-sama doesn't exist to mediate, simply isn't possible. There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment. Lodika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Mion shouldered. So, when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. Sure, it's fine. Thank you. I'd like to thank you too, Kei-chan. Jenna stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave. It's fine, Jenna. You can wait right here. I just want to go around the yard with Kei-chan. If you're bored, you can go to my room. You can read any manga you like. And if there are any volumes you like, you might as well take them. I don't want to. Kei-chan's books belong to Mi-chan. Jenna couldn't bring them back home with her so freely. You're such a good kid, only at times like this. Mion took his head and rubbed it violently like I always did. Okay, let's go with Kei-chan. I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway when Jenna silently stopped me. Take care of Mi-chan. Yeah. Mi-chan really does believe she won't ever be able to come back. I didn't know how much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent. Watch out, so that you don't make her lose her temper, okay? Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. And I had already thought that far ahead. Right. I won't let that happen. And I rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing them. Okay. Go after her. I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Jenna sobbing from the other side of the paper door. Why was Mi-chan a successor to Demon? Maybe it just had to happen that way. But it was so awful. Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last time of my time I could offer to Mion. Well, I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times, left. Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this? Can I hold your arm? It was such a modest request. I don't mind. My permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy. Took my arm. Get kind of nervous with your arm through mine. You're not thinking, for example, I'd suddenly put you in a world-class joint lock or anything. You two say the same things. I don't think that at all. Back when nothing had gone wrong yet, during those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Mort, I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. I had been arm in arm with Shion then, too. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth, and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same. But you're, and oh, you, but you mean, you mean the other one, I get it. I think Shion liked you, Kei-chan. I see. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back, red in the face. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Mion and Shion, you got along well, didn't you? Well, I wonder. Hey, John, do you think your right hand and left hand get along? Uh-huh. My right hand and left hand? I don't think you could even describe them as getting along or not. That's how our relationship is. Can't measure it by the scale of how well we get along. That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well. For example, one of your hands is dominant, so there will always be a better hand. If you only had one oven mitt, you would put it on your dominant hand without thinking, right? I think maybe it was like that for us. It doesn't mean, though, that anyone would be okay with losing their left hand. It's that kind of unexplainable relationship. I think that maybe you live too close together and just stop being able to see it, but I think that means you get along really well. I'm an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of when you and Shion were messing around with each other. I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. Yes, we twins used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people, but now that we have such distinctly different personalities, it just gets in the way. Were they cursed or were they self-conscious? The relationship was hard to understand for a spider. Maybe that wasn't an issue something someone like me should intrude. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big, desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. The big forest was part of their property, and so I couldn't help but feel small. Huge. You must have had a great time playing in it as kids, huh? Mion seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back to those fun days when they played like sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, caressed the treetops and the leaves, making a swishing, murmuring sound. Mion remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned. Shion is still alive. Really? Mion took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly. Yeah, I'd been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it, though. Mion sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me, she saved Shion too. Mion may have become a demon that led many people to their deaths, but she fought against it and was able to save 2 people. As I petted Mion, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile and untangled her arm from mine. Then Mion quietly said, "Come with me." I want you to see all of my sins. Although, Kate-chan, it might be the worst thing you've ever seen. I could sense it. That I would probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Looking at them would mean accepting Kate-chan and Satoko's death, as well as accepting best friend had done it. It's already happened, and it's in the past. You can choose not to look, Kate-chan. If you don't want to, then wait here. I will personally end everything. I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Minna had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I had agreed to her last request, didn't I? God, I'm starting to be blurry. Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'll still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see. Yes? SONOZAKI Mion is the best friend I've ever had. That won't change. Never will. Treetops softly swayed in the wind. You and Nana both. You only get really cool at times like this. Normally, I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question. But today, I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking. Into the thick forest. Into the deepest hole. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, he finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine or a bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills that had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place. If you want to turn back, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person SONOZAKI Mion is to you, but if you can go inside, that Mion will probably... You won't change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. SONOZAKI Mion is the best friend I could ever have. I clenched my fist. Inside there, probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It will never change that Mion is my greatest friend. I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. I have a feeling, though, that I know why Mion fell in love with you. Don't say that like it's not related to you. Ha ha! You're Mion. You're not a demon. You're a human with human blood, and you're my friend. Mion made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. The lock on it was dauntingly strong looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, stifling rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank out on the porch. How intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's what this, certainly. Inside, it was pitch black, but Mion flicked a switch that turned on a light bulb, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. You passed spaces that looked like they were for storing. Past places. You passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated that it had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give an impression of a dugout bomb shelter that had just been left there, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were a second SONOZAKI house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel. You saw what was in the ritual storehouse. The piles of torture instruments, all of them were gated to uphold the strict religious laws of Onigafuchidori. They were tools used to kill those who broke the laws in terrible ways as a warning to others. That was a long time ago. Watanagashi, originally a ritual meant as a deterrent, was once overseen by the three families. But thanks to Miyoshi and Ude families going into decline and the way times changed, actually carrying it out became difficult. I can imagine why. You'd never think people would be okay with drowning people in a swamp and killing them in modern Japan. That's why the SONOZAKI family built this. Secret. He could continue the rites of Nagashi. Mion opened a large, strikingly different door. Inside was none other than a modern storehouse for ritual implements. There's quite a few there. Some of them were actually brought here from the original storehouse. All of the things that had been rusty and covered in dust, so they didn't seem real. But the things in here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained, kept in a state that they could be used right away. Blades gleamed and spikes were sharpened. Also, perhaps as a precaution for the splatter of blood, the walls and ceiling were covered in the kind of tiling you would see in bathrooms, and there was even a drain set amidst a slight slope in the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning splattered blood. According to something a leader from a long time ago wrote, blood splatter has impact, despite the fact that it doesn't tax the sacrifice. Watanagashi meant as a deterrent. After all, my ancestors thought up all different kinds of things to show off. As she said that, Mion pointed deeper into the torture room, to a spot veiled in darkness. There was surprisingly a room floored with tatami mats, and in the corner was a pile of cushions. They're seats for the audience. Watanagashi was meant as a deterrent, after all. It wouldn't make sense if there were no guests. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think of anything to say anyway. Except that if Mion revealing all this to me made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed. Right here is where I killed everyone. There were no spectators to watch me, but I did the Watanagashi very well. Well, perhaps there was one spectator. Huh? A spectator? Me? I, the demon, was watching the entire time Mion held the Watanagashi ceremony. Mion cackled with self-depreciation. Wasn't it a nice sounding laugh? Back there is the prison. Mion there. He nodded slightly. Mion's Watanagashi had ended today. I needed to tell Shion that I was safe without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling in fear at this very moment, worrying about when she would be killed. The ostentatious door on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expansive space based on the echo. Mion groped around in the darkness. A handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more of the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were bare rock surface, and it felt so savage that bomb shelter was the most apt term for it. There were small, barred rooms built here and there, like holes made by insects fighting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each one of them was a prison. Where is everyone? Chan, their corpses? I grimaced at her, having said it so outright. Yeah, that's right. But poor things, left here in the dark like. I didn't want them to get infested with bugs, so I threw them down the well. I'm sorry. Though I can't even see their faces, even in death. Once again, my feeling regret, having confessed everything to Nika-chan, came surging forth. Mion hadn't attached the word sorry to the end of what she said, I might have punched her. Calm down, my Abaraki. Get it yourself. No matter what. Mion. Ozaki Mion. Your greatest friend! Yeah. Greatest friend. I needed to hear myself say it out loud. It came with clattering of bars and one of the cells deeper in. When I noticed it, I looked up as well. Jion? Is that you, Shion? Kei-chan? Is that you, Kei-chan? I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking out through the gaps in the bars. Really was her? Are you alright, Shion? Are you hurt? Oh, no! Shion's face twisted out of shape as she screamed. It was because Mion had appeared right behind me. Of course. Mion didn't know that everything was over yet. Calm down, Shion. Everything is already over. Everything. I spoke in as calm a voice as I could manage, to try and soothe the agitated Shion. However, it didn't seem like it was getting through her screams. Shion, how have you been? No more, please, no more. I don't want to see anyone else die. Hate me, then just kill me already. I'm the one you hate, right? Kill me right now. Yes. Calm down, Shion. It's all over now. It's going to be alright, so calm down. Shion, who was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, truly in a frantic state, gave a slight shrug of resignation, giving way to Mion. I had realized that if Mion was the one who locked her in here, and if Mion was the one who had scared Shion this much, then Mion was also the only one who could put an end to this. Mion spoke from over my shoulder, quietly. Relax. I won't kill you. No, I won't kill you just yet. She burst out into a bizarre laugh, as if trying to make Shion's madness ease. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver, brought on by that laugh, and rattled the iron bars as she wailed. Please stop! Don't kill Kei-chan! Kei-chan has nothing to do with this, does he? If you're going to kill someone, then kill me right now! I don't want anyone else to die! You want to die that badly? Then after I've killed this man, I'll take my time making mincemeat out of you. In accordance with the ancient rites, I'll do it slowly, starting with your extremities. Shave you down and mince you. I had that mincing machine set up specifically for you, after all. Or would it be funnier if I were to mince up Kei-chan in front of you? Hey, quit it already. What do you have to gain by scaring her at this point? Oh, Kei-chan, run away! I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her this late in the game, because I'm really that fucking stupid to not see what's going on here, but when I turned around, Mion's mouth so much that it was hard to believe and twisted into a shape even thinner than a crested moon. It was a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. The person here wasn't my best friend Mion. It wasn't the SONOZAKI Mion who had been tossed about by her heavy duty of succeeding the SONOZAKI family either. Then, who was she? Ba-bam! I saw sparks flying before my eyes, like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength in my body drained instantly, and my head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation and hit the floor. Then my whole body abruptly collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable, as if I had fallen onto a down-filled futon. My consciousness reeled, then receded. It was the kind of sensation like if you took a nap in the car, but you were still half awake and could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. No, you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing it. It was happening so far away, and the conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you would have no interest in it. So whether Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it was annoying, nor did it interest me. Now then, I wonder how I should go about preparing you. Oh yes, what do you think of a bed of nails? I tested it on those two little brats, but their hands were too small for the restraining table. Let's do that, let's do that! Mion held me up from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scraped on it and one of my shoes fell off. No, please stop, sis! Please stop! Shion's emotions exploded outward and she burst into bitter weeping, as if her crying had whetted Mion's interest. She flung me down and returned to the prison cell again. You sure can cry with a cute voice, can't you? Your unnatural bravado was making my skin crawl, but this definitely suits you best. Mion, my big sister. Mion, my big sister, I beg you. I don't care how you choose to kill me, but please, at least let Kei-chan go. I'm begging you. Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. At Shion in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined it during those peaceful times. Prostrated herself before the older sister she used to scoff at and pleaded forgiveness. Ha ha ha! That's what you think. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference, one that was plainly smiling with joy. You know, I wasn't planning on listening to your petty wishes. The way you're crying, though, is just too funny. I think maybe I'll change my mind and listen to you. Since, come to think of it, I never did anything big sister-like for you. But yes, thank you so much. All right then, let's hear you apologize for everything. Then maybe I'll let it all be water under the bridge. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let Kei-chan go. Mion said she might let me go, but she never said anything about letting Shion go. Before long, Shion got on her hands and knees behind the bars and began to speak weak words of apology. They were too faint for me to hear, but their intention got across, despite having watched her with a magnificently jubilant expression. Mion kicked the bars and declared she was unsatisfied. You think you can make up for years of grudges and hard feelings like that? That just will not do. I guess I'll make mincemeat out of you both. No! Wait, sis. One more chance. Just one more chance. Mion stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion. Can't apologize to my satisfaction anyway. I'll teach you how to make an apology that will get through to your older sister. I'm only going to tell you once, and if you get even a letter wrong, you're out. Got it? Yes. Thank you, sis. Oh. Shion's miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest turned a little at a time. I realized it was feelings of anger bubbling up. I was slowly regaining control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I still couldn't voluntarily move my fingers. Did you memorize it? Then let's hear you say it. Sincerely and faithfully, from beginning to end, with all your heart. If you can do it properly, then I'll only kill you. Yes. Thank you so much. Something was strange. Something had become strange at some point. Until just a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mion, but at some point she had become someone else. The Mion I knew well would never do something so nasty. I enjoy trampling all over someone's dignity like this. Now, let's hear it. Your big sister is listening closely. SONOZAKI Shion is... When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me? Anyway, this couldn't possibly be Mion. SONOZAKI Shion is a lowly, worthless sow, not fit to even lick her big sister Mion's feet. And when I think of the countless times I've been rude to my big sister without even knowing my place... Yes, that's the spirit. I'll permit you to say a little more now, okay? Blood circulated through my whole body. My numb senses were returning. Just a little more. While Shion is still holding Mion's nose, that thing pretending to be Mion's attention. Hurry up! I reflect on how impertinent I've been. Wear loyalty to my big sister Mion for the rest of my life. Oh. Mion's burst of laughter echoed throughout the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. That was not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. It was none other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of the earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it, then stopped smiling suddenly, as if snipping a wire. Alright, already. That was funny enough for me. I didn't think you'd throw away that much of your pride. That was plenty enjoyable. Mion began to drag me again after I finally got the feeling in my body back, and pulled me towards the torture chamber. Yes, only kill me. Please, forgive him. Worry, alright? I'll be sure to kill you real good. After letting you get an earful of Kei-chan's screams, that is. No! After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me to the restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, with which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained, oh god damn it, each one of my fingers. She fastened only my hands and my fingers at that, tightly, with hinges, and locked them in place. Sis, don't kill him, sis! The door to the big cave with the jails had been left open, so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time. You hear it, Shion? I'm gonna get started now. Please enjoy Kei-chan's young screams. Give it a fucking rest. The feeling in my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off that thing that looked like Mion. Awake at last, are we? I lied before, you know, about having wanted to give Shion the most miserable death of all. But locking her up, because I haven't thought of a good way yet, that was a lie. Mion brought over something like a toolbox. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer, and next to that, she began to line up what looked like long, strangely shaped nails whose ends had been turned into hooks, like the kind you'd see on a harpoon. I'll let her hear the screams of all those people that died because of her, and after they've soaked into her very soul, then I'll kill her. I've got pretty good taste, huh? Huh? I'm Mion. SONOZAKI Mion. Has the fear driven you crazy? No, you're not. this. No way you can be Sonozaki Mion. Mion snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture. I see that if I'm not Mion, who am I? A demon. Huh? You're not Mion. Mion was just here. Give her back. Hey, Chan, is your brain really doing okay? You're not going crazy with fear? Don't touch me. Damn demon. Give her back. Give Mion back. My best friend. Give Mion back. Mion stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. Yeah, I bet. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense. The demands Mion return when she was right in front of me. But this person in front of me couldn't possibly have been Mion. There was no way I could accept that. So this is what I thought. Mion really had been possessed by a demon and was controlling Mion as if it were a separate personality. Mion was just a victim being manipulated by it. The evil one was really this thing. It all had to be the doing of this demon possessing her. When Mion heard that, she started to guffaw, laughing so hysterically that she started to cough and almost choked. You really are a piece of work, you know that? In this very moment, Sonozaki Mion is trying to kill you, and you're trying to reject me? I never knew there was such a funny person in all the world. If you want to laugh, do it all you want. No matter what you say, though, I won't accept that you're Mion. Give her back. Away with you, demon! Hey, John, are you trying to kill me by drowning me in my own tears? No matter what, I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly. I shouted from the bottom of my heart so that the real Mion, trapped inside the Mion I saw in front of me, would be able to hear. Do it, Mion. Don't lose to this piece of shit demon. Strong. Show me how strong you are. The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with a restraint, so she couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow. Please, Mion! Mion! Where did you lose to a demon like this? You're not that weak, are you? Don't lose. Fight! Fight! Mion, desperately enduring her laughter, pressed one of the long nails to the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. At her side were dozens of more nails. I could tell what she was about to do, though I wish I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't afford to be scared. That was why I shouted. My sides hurt like they're gonna split. Is that all? I'm gonna get started now. Be sure to give her some good screams. Not only am I torturing you, Kate-chan, I'm torturing Shion as well. Why? Why? But you? Shion! Then I wept. Only sobs came out. They weren't in acceptance of the torture about to be performed, however. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to the demon. Yet a small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining little by little. By the time I realized it, the one in front of me had returned to being Mion. Keicha may not be something pleasant to take to the grave with you. You really seem to want to know, though, so I'll tell you just one thing. I didn't know. Mion are just a display of momentary humanity the demon had recovered. A long time before the demon came to live inside me. It was gnawing at my heart, trying to spur me to violence, but I suppressed it with my... That settled the demon down, and I got to thinking it had gone away somewhere. As it turned out, it hadn't left me. It had just... I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes. The demon woke up again due to a certain small opportunity. What do you think that opportunity was? There was a sad yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes. Do you understand? I don't. I don't know what gave the demon the chance to beat Mion. This might be strange for me, a demon, to say, but you're the reason that everything got messed up. The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downward all of a sudden. At the time, if you had given me the doll you got without hesitating, maybe everything wouldn't have gotten so twisted. The doll I got! That doll I got. We had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday? You probably can't understand. I wouldn't expect you to. But you see, all sorts of things started falling over like dominoes after that. Soon it was too much for me to control. It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of knocking over the first one since it was so small. You're the one who set it out. Me. Hadn't made Mion cry, then I wouldn't have. That enough for you to die in peace? Cake that I'd made on that day. That can't be. It only makes sense that you wouldn't. Okay. Without a doubt, the cause. If you had nonchalantly given me the doll that day, I'd take this one. I wanted to say, like I'd just remembered something. I recalled that day. Jenna had told me about that, and I thought I had apologized. I didn't apologize to me. It had been Mion. In other words, oh God, I hadn't said a single word of apology to Mion. The day I came to this house, saying I had something to apologize for, but I never said a word of apology about this. Come to think of it, when I apologized for going into the ritual storehouse, Mion looked a little bit lonely, like he was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? Jenna told me at the time, and now she herself, no, the demon was telling me. The only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured? Die altogether? Oh! I could no longer hold back the hot tears from pouring out of me. I simply just cried and cried and reflected indifferently on the taste of my tears, on the taste of regret. Start now, then. Should I start now, then? The method of torture is very simple. I'll nail one of these into the joint on the end of your left pinky finger. Then I'll nail one in order until I get to your thumb. Then I'll go back to your pinky finger and nail one into the joint in the middle. So on and on until I hammer 15 nails into your left hand. When that's over with, I'll do your right hand next. After that, if you're still conscious, I'll tell you. There are a lot of nerves bundled in your fingertips. Oh man, do I know that. What hurts far more than you can imagine. Some people apparently pass out before you finish hammering further nails into their hands. So Mion pressed the tip of a nail into my left pinky finger, My wrists, my arms, and all the joints on my fingers were strapped in so tightly it hurt and I couldn't even twitch. I didn't hesitate at all when I was torturing the others. Why do I hesitate now? If this will satisfy your demon, Mion, it will sate the demon and do to me what you will. What you will. Are you serious? Compared to how much I hurt Mion, this is nothing, right? Do as much as you want. In exchange, promise me 2 things. Mion was silent. He did, however, wait for me to speak. After you're satisfied with causing me pain, forgive Shion. She's been punished enough to make up for her crime of sneaking into the storehouse, hasn't she? You. For all this, you can still worry about Shion more than you. The other thing, that when you've had your fill, you disappear. Give that body back to Mion. That's all. No, Are you not even considering possibly begging for your life or anything? Can I ask you to promise 3 things instead of 2? The third is to leave me alive. You said 2 in the beginning, didn't you? So you can't have any more. That's a shame. In such an abnormal situation. Mion and I laughed quietly together, sharing in a stupid joke. Probably won't keep these promises, understand? I'm a demon after all. I guess there's nothing I can do. I recalled tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were opened all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them. So instead, I tightened my toes. Okay. Do it. I've prepared myself already. Do it. Waiting like this to hammer the nails in is scarier. It diminished my readiness after all. Mion put down the hammer, gently stroked my cheek. Hey-chan, I'll agree to just the 3rd thing, okay? Huh? My 3rd wish, to save me. You'll agree to it? Your 1st wish, save Shion? That's long done for. The demon will kill her. It's already been decided, so I can't stop it. So give up on that. Her delicate fingers slid from my cheek to my chin. As for your 2nd wish, give this body back to Mion. That won't happen either. After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, it will be just a body. As the Oni taking it over. No, Mion is on. Don't say such bad things like that she never come back. Harry. And gently closed her eyes. I definitely heard it as well. A dull noise that repeated at fixed intervals. A low noise, accompanied by vibration. A lot of people were ramming the iron doors to this underground ritual storehouse. You're late, so Anna probably called Ooishi. That spaced-out girl being so quick-thinking was the one thing I didn't anticipate. I'll agree with you there. Mion grinned like she'd been outwitted, then took something that looked like an electric razor out of her pocket. Oh no! When she pressed the switch, pale blue sparks flew out with a snapping noise. You've probably never seen one before, right? A real stun gun. It's illegal, and its output has been increased quite a bit. Is that what you hit me with before? That's not a toy children should be playing with, you know. You're right. You seem to want to use the stun gun on me. Unable to move, I felt her press the cool lump of metal to my neck. Slam! I heard a roar as if they'd broken down the first large door. The halls were a bit complex. Aside from the door to this very torture chamber, there was nothing in their way. I won't kill you, but I will have you go to sleep for a bit, Kei-chan. Ooishi will be here soon. This will only hurt a bit. Feeling the same shock as before. Gritting my teeth wasn't gonna help much. I clenched them tightly anyway. However, just as she did when she was about to hammer the nails in, she hesitated a little. I cracked open my tightly closed eyelid. Sorry, embracing me. I made a promise before coming. Whatever happens, my heart won't. Look, about that. Ever see me after today, don't come near me. And then it will be the demon that inherited my corpse. I tried to say that a much stronger light than before shined. Like a television being switched off, my consciousness back. June 1983. A string of disappearances occurred in Hinamizawa village. Each one is city. Damn it! The suspect is Mion SONOZAKI Mion, blank X-teen-year-old. She is suspected to have kidnapped 5 Hinamizawa residents between June 19 and June 21st. Oryo, Young, Kiichiro, God damn it, why do you go so fast? Go back up, go back. God damn it, go back up. She is suspected, imprisoned them and killed them. Preliminary investigations on the incident were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but it was resolved coincidentally and shockingly. On the morning of 23rd, vehicle doors heard screams from the inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect's missing younger sister, SONOZAKI Shion, and her 2 missing classmates, Watanagashi and Higurashi. The suspect fled the scene. Deep in the detached basement on the SONOZAKI property, which is believed to have been used to kill those who disappeared, we discovered that hair, flakes of skin, blood, etc. of the other 4 missing persons, Oryo, Kiichiro, Yunika, and Sotoko, being included the missing persons, were tortured in the torture chamber. However, their remains have still not been found. At one of her imprisoned classmates' advice, we continued searching the detached basement of the SONOZAKI property, which was where they were imprisoned, believing that they were there. However, we still have not located. In addition, investigations are continuing as to her participation in the serial freak death incidents of recent years. Think it would give more clue. Some clue, but no evidence that SONOZAKI Mion was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There are still many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and as those of the SONOZAKI family and the residents of Fiona have been extremely uncooperative in investigations, we expect to require a long climb pattern. The opinion of a local officer knowledge about the region is that this may have been a lynching, an internal form of punishing sacrilegious acts carried out against the police of Hinamizawa village. It is clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region, and the prefectural police has ordered a look at the investigation. We anticipated gaining valuable clues from the missing person, believed to have been imprisoned for the longest time, SONOZAKI Shion, the suspect's younger sister, but her mind was stricken by the grave after effects of the incident, and she has not been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions about what she knows. The psychiatrist concluded that she is in a temporary state of shock, but it doesn't seem hopeful that she will recover today either. Only a few days passed since that time. Alright, let's go back. Okay, so things to take from this. 0 evidence that Mion was involved, not even indirectly, with the previous things, despite what Mion claimed. That's the main thing. After that, I was rescued by ooishi-san and his subordinates, whom Rena had called in. Aside from my entirely blank state of mind, I had no external injuries. The most I had was a small burn mark from where the stun gun hit me. As I was having a checkup in the hospital, ooishi-san asked me all sorts of things, but I don't really remember what he asked or how I answered him. From what I heard, surprisingly, Mion still hadn't been captured. There were apparently a great many hallways and smaller rooms extending out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't be strange if she had fled to one of those and hidden herself. Excuse me. The one fortunate aspect amidst all the misfortune was that Shion had been safely secured by the police. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her and then kill me. She probably didn't have enough time to, though, since ooishi-san came running in faster than she predicted. That was the only really fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now had a big, deep wound in her heart. She was in a severe state of confusion when they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist. What he heard, she was seeing Mion in everyone she saw. Hated not only the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere in Shishibone, hiding her location. Additionally, in fear Mion would come for her, she was moving from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where she actually was. Wherever she was living, even now, Mion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at this moment. Since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices, hadn't Mion thrown the corpses into a well? I had a feeling I'd said that. That meant a hidden tunnel, vertical like a well, was somewhere in those underground passages. The secret underground, without any maps or architectural drawings, which had swallowed up the remains of Nika-chan, Satoko, and everyone else. Still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again, too, for an on-the-site inspection or something, but I didn't remember being of any help. I never wanted to go back there again. For days afterward, the Sonozakis living in Okinomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, the big-name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many of their followers with them. However much my parents refused it, they piled up many 100,000 yen bills, calling it consolation money every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after it had passed 2 million yen, they were given an envelope containing a letter. I don't know what was written in the letter. My parents talked about it by themselves for 2 whole nights and decided to move away. I see. You're moving, huh? When? At the end of next month. There won't even have been in Namizawa for half a year. You're lonely. I'm the only one left. And I smiled sadly. I just said, yeah. Thought it would make me more lonely. I changed the subject. Here's something to think about. That's how I broached it. Mion hadn't actually fled, but had been demoned away through a sense of return. Where she went after she disappeared, that we didn't know. What was there where she had disappeared to? I hoped there was a hobby shop dealer worth behind me. That place definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of her family, and live not as Sonozaki Mion, but just as Mion, and enjoy herself. Maybe already met up with Satoko and Nika. They must also been waiting for the day that I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities, lively as they always. I told Nana that, smiled. The incidents the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide, too, were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny scene. The serial incidents of recent years were all pulled up like a long vine in the ground, one by one, and for many days, news of it was brought up on talk shows and variety shows. Shows, which were comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion had been bearing. It made me mad to see them bringing this stuff up in jest. There was nothing I could do about it now. How big an impression would these short few weeks I spent in Kamizawa have on my life? During these few weeks, I met my best friends. We had the best experiences of my life. I would probably never forget it for as long as I live. distorted image the media created. After the masses got tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her in the trash, and then she would fade from their memories. Somebody was one of the few people who knew the real Mion. I must always make sure I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that will surely become my offer. I reached so far up, towering cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. The real summer, just before our eyes. Even now, whenever 10 p.m. came, I would expect a phone call from Shion, rather. Now that everything was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me. Plus, Shion still hadn't been caught. Couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Shion was safe. When I thought like that, I was sleepy. Such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. The moonlight filtering through the gap in the curtain shone onto the desk. It illuminated a doll. Right, the doll I should have given to me on that. That it was an import for me. Something, and all the rage did. From what Shion said, the most popular among them were the ones wearing the fluffy dress. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy. Everything was apparently sold out besides things on the storefront display. I was refused once they said they wouldn't sell the display products, but when they realized I was Survivor A from that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her. And even knowing that, waited for the opportunity. I waited like this for the opportunity to put on my desk so I could give it to her. Oh, there was a noise I wasn't used to. It was big to be a raindrop, and it was completely different from lost bugs ran into fluorescent light. Figured I must have heard back into well, noise happened again. I wasn't hearing anything. Definitely heard it. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where? I listened. Well, the window. Sort of pebble. Or colliding. And I realized they weren't being blown there by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person. Gave a start. I looked at the clock. 2 a.m. Would it be? I quietly peek out front. Through the gap in the curtains, the light of the gate, despite it being so late. Awesome. picked up a piece of gravel. This went hit the window, made a plunking. Ah! Caught my breath in surprise. If my eyes weren't personal. Threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes certainly weren't deceiving me. It was Mion. It was Mion. She was alive. Mion pressed her index finger to her lips and made a shh motion so I wouldn't shout. She hadn't, well, I was nearly about to cry out. Mion was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was the middle of the night, I shouldn't call out her name. I waved to her, gesturing that I'd be right over, flung on my coat atop my pajamas, and flew out the door. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had the sad feeling that this would be our final parting. So I went back to my room again, grabbed the doll. If there was a God, I don't think I would ever have thanked him as much as today. Even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other. I was so grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandal, unlocked the door, took the chain, and leapt out of the house. Run. It's been a while. How are you? Doing all right? I eat every morning. Waved to me and responded like she always did. That was Mion. It was the real Mion. Are you all right hanging around this place? I really shouldn't be. Certainly wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. It was almost like it was a patient who had gotten tired of staying in the hospital and had snuck out. Her speech was relaxed enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That relaxation, I thought, was more like Mion. I was happy for it. Anyway, what's wrong? Eat at this hour. I wanted to talk to you. That was when I noticed them. On Mion's forehead. Big droplets of sweat. Her expression, too, which I had thought to be a satisfied smile, was, upon closer inspection, trembling slightly, and I realized that she was forcing it. So I can't stay for her any longer. The pain note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her. Are you all right? Are you not feeling well? I tried so hard until now. I can tell. I'm done. This is my limit. They're about to come up behind me and take me away. Mion's smile crumbled, started to stiffen. Did she butcher herself this much to come all the way for me? Her laughter cut off and changed into rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away. Are you okay? Don't force yourself. Oh, that's right. I had something to give you, Mion. Oh. I had wanted to do this one last time. I knew how little time with this last thing. My stomach is burning. Mion took a meat cleaver-like knife and stabbed me. I pushed it in tight and took it and twisted it. Hey. It hurts. I made it. I made it. I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot, it was almost spewing fire. Mion watched it, then took a few steps back, cackled. I've done it all! That's everyone I wanted to kill! The last words Mion left me with that day came back to me. After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, a body is all it will be. By then, the demon will have taken it over. The demon. The demon. The demon. This can't. I thought we had finally been able to meet. This can't be on. In a pool of blood of my own design, the doll I bought for Mion, dyed red. Oh, red. Mion. Good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more, and the misfortune of that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful or curse it? My emotions were neither of those, as my consciousness sunk deep to a black swamp. The doll I bought for Mion, the blood, ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. The sad moon was so light it looked frozen. June 28th, 1983. A violent incident occurred in Yamazawa Village, Shishibone City, X Prefecture. The victim was Maibara Keiichi, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a bladed object by the subject of the last case, SONOZAKI Mion, and was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up and was then transported to the clinic. He escaped death. The criminal fled the scene. On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fall accident occurred in the Kamishiki apartment complex in Shishibone City, X Prefecture. The victim was Sonozaki Shion, also a victim. Late on the same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used a master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. The room had been torn apart and appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor has frequently visited the Sonozaki house for a long time and testified that he heard what sounded like the two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believe this was related to the injury case that occurred the same day in Yamazawa Village, perpetrated by said incident suspect, and did a thorough search of the room, but we could not find any traces that would imply anyone but the suspect. The victim fell straight down into the foliage of a parking strip. Her neck broke and she died immediately. Her clothing was disheveled and had markings that would imply a scuffle. We also believe, however, that it could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt based on the particular mental state of the victim after the incident. We are conducting a thorough examination on both fronts, suicide and homicide. For 5 minutes. And I do, so why aren't you advancing, Max? Please try not to excite him. Yes, I'll be careful. Clack. Door opened, and I expected. Ooishi-san. Hello, Maibara-san. Been a while, hasn't it? Tell me, how have you been since then? It kind of makes me happy that this is the music that's accompanying Ooishi entering. The doctor says my post-operative recovery seems to be going smooth. But I think I got worse when I saw your face. You wound me. As Ooishi-san gave a laugh that smelled of sweat, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candies he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital. Excuse me, Mrs. Maibara, would it be Possible for me to talk to Gage-kun for just a few moments? Clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted. But Mom, sorry, just a little while, just 5 minutes, okay? Though grudgingly, Mom left the room. When she closed the door, Ooishi-san grinned widely and looked around the room. Room to yourself, how high class. My old lady always gets a shared room, you know. It's quite lively, however. Seems like you're a higher rank if you have a worse disease in places like that. The sicker you are, the prouder you are, or maybe more arrogant. Ooishi-san, we only have 5 minutes. I would like it if those were the last 5 minutes we ever saw each other. I don't have any connection to Hinamizawa anymore. And this isn't in Hinamizawa anymore either. Yes, because there aren't any general hospitals in Okinomiya. Mind if I take a seat? Down we go. This was a large university hospital in Shishimone City. It was splendidly urban, entirely different from the likes of Hinamizawa and Okinomiya. It was hard to believe Hinamizawa was part of the same city. When does it look like you'll get transferred? Dunno. I'm ready to go whenever, though. Our moving plans were delayed a little because of my serious injury. My parents had already left the house in Hinamizawa, though, and were living in our new one. They planned to have me transfer hospitals to be closer to the new house once I'd recover enough to be taken there. Please don't come to where I'm transferring. I really will get worse then. Man, you really do hate me. It ain't just me my job, but that stings. That's why I brought you all kinds of lovely souvenirs in atonement. You didn't need to bring an assortment of cookies for that. Well, you see, there aren't actually cookies in there. Look. Ooishi-san pulls open the can of cookies and... Ow! Ow! I'm stretching my scar! I didn't know what you were into, Maibara-san, so I bought all sorts of things. See, all sorts of cute-looking ones, from westerns to comic strips. Lately, they even have this sort of H-manga aimed at girls, too. Don't bring porn in here! Take them away and go home! Ow, 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 ow. I thought for sure a healthy young person like you would be feeling a little needy being cooped up in a place like this for so long. If you stay here too long, the only fetish you'll end up with is a nurse one, you know. There are plenty of other beautiful things in this world besides nurses, after all. Don't decide what to major in now. Keep your options open. You need to be more all-around type of person. I gave Ooishi-san's vulgar laughter a pained grin. Somehow or other, I understood. The fact that Ooishi-san was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important. The incident with Shion-san really was important. The night I was stabbed by Mion, Shion fell from her balcony and died. They said the police were investigating all possibilities. Accident, suicide, and homicide. But it could only have been Mion's doing. Mion found out where Shion was hiding and pushed her down into her death. Nothing else was conceivable. It couldn't have been an accident. It was Mion. It had to be. The criminology guys are saying it had to be suicide. But I'm of the same opinion as you, Maibara-san. He pushed Shion-san and also stabbed you. In one night. This Mion been found? Oh, that's right. That's what I came here to tell you today. Yes, we actually did find her. What? Ow, 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 ow. Learning that felt rather strange to me. I was partly relieved that the incident was truly over, and I was partly sorry that my best friend has finally been caught. I felt many other things, too. My heart was a maze of emotion. That's not all. In the SONOZAKI house catacombs, we found a hidden well. Just as you said, Maibara-san. We found the remains of all those who disappeared at the bottom. I see. The sliver of hope, that possibility I'd believed in, that Rika-chan and Satoko are alive just from the fact the remains hadn't been found. Gone. It was incredibly well hidden in those catacombs. I mean, it was in the blind spot of another blind spot. It was a vertical tunnel dug out like a well. There was a ladder set up there, and when we went all the way down, there was another tunnel built there going through it. When we followed it a few hundred meters, we found ourselves at the mouth of an old unused well in the mountain. I wonder if it was a secret escape route a previous SONOZAKI family leader built. Probably was. Maybe it was made in the Meiji era. Still, I'm impressed they built something like that. So, everyone's remains were at the bottom? Yes. Even deeper down than the escape path, there was a full pool of coal tar. They'd been casually thrown in there. They had fallen from a fairly high spot, so their remains were totally buried in it. It took a lot of time and effort to pull their bodies up. Did you find them all? I hoped that they at least find Rika-chan or Satoko. I wished for when I asked, but my shallow hope was crushed. Yes, all of them. In fact, we also found human bones we think are over a decade old. We think there are at least 3 people. I suppose it's the dark side of Hinamizawa's history. Or how many people's bones we'll find once we've sucked out all the mud. Scary thought. That weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the entire time. We've currently identified people who disappeared from Shishibone City decades ago. People are talking about how this opportunity might let us resolve the disappearing persons cases that have been abandoned. After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Ooishi-san went for his cigarettes to pass the time, but realized this was a non-smoking area, so he gave up and put them back in his shirt pocket. Oh, right. It's a bit of a detour, but you know Furude Rika-san, right? Of course. She's my friend. She ever tell you anything along the lines of her regularly taking insulin injections for diabetes? What? Rika-chan has diabetes? I didn't know what he was talking about. Actually, we found it in her skirt pocket. A syringe. It was destroyed, though, so we couldn't identify the medicine. It was a bit out of place, so I got interested. You really don't know anything? I didn't know anything about Rika-chan carrying syringes around with her. The Sonozaki family corporates, the Yakuza. Well, anyway, there's rumors that they deal in psychostimulants. I was thinking that they might have something to do with it, too. Are you trying to tell me that John is a drug addict? No, not at all. That isn't what I'm saying. It just seems strange, however you look at it. She would bring a syringe with her on her way to get soy sauce. I have no idea. This means my eyes are spinning. I feel sick. Are you alright? Should I call a nurse? I'm fine. Please continue. Well, that's all I had to say about the syringe. It was the only thing that personally struck me as interesting. Rika-san was sort of like the village mascot, after all. It looks like the village is in uproar right now. Between the older blind believers and the Sonozaki family who killed her, the 3 families' effective control over the village is basically in shambles, too. If someone came up to them with talk of a dam again, with this sort of timing, the entire village would be abandoned for sure this time. I'm not hated Hinamizawa anymore. I actually was. I just said it because the thought about Hinamizawa being abandoned was unpleasant. I wanted to end the conversation quickly. There was a knock at the door. It opened again. My mom asked if we were still talking. Whoops, we went off topic, didn't we? What a pickle. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, but she could wait just a bit longer. Is that so? Keep it short, okay? There wasn't any getting around the fact that she was thinking about what a police officer could be talking to her son about. Maybe we should choose another day for that. Ooishi-san? Mion, how is she right now? I wanted to just hear that answer and then get rid of him. Before I tell you that, I just need one thing from you. I just need you to answer something in all honesty. What is it? I want you to take your answer seriously. Got it? If you say something indiscreet, it could be viewed as an obstruction of the investigation, and you could be prosecuted. But Oishi-san kept threatening me until the end. What the hell did he want? Mayabara-san, who do you think the criminal was who pushed Shion from the balcony? Well, there's no way it could be anyone but Mion, is there? But who was the one who stabbed you? Please don't make me say it again. It was Mion. SONOZAKI Mion. Oishi-san smiled bitterly and then dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and yet, it looked as though he wasn't satisfied with it. He pushed Shion and stabbed me. Didn't you just admit yourself that Mion was the criminal? The evidence we have that Mion killed Shion is based on testimony from the man living next door. This neighbor is actually a member of an organized crime group. In other words, he was Shion-san's bodyguard. It seems he's a veteran leader in that vein and was like a parent to the Sonozaki sisters growing up. That man said this. The noise he heard from next door was just like the sound of a fight between the sisters that he was used to hearing when they still lived together. And no, there was no doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other and heard them struggling. At first, though, he thought it was a hallucination she was having brought on by her dementia. You see, he thought that because that sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. However, that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down while he got the manager to give him the key. He'd already decided he'd at least check up on her, and after she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and unlocked the door. Then they saw that the room was a mess. Shion had been pushed over the balcony. They decided it had to have been Mion, and that's how it happened. In other words, he only heard it from the other side of the wall. Plus, because the apartment complex is connected to their organization, it doesn't have many residents, so they were the only ones who heard it happening. To reiterate, there was only one person who witnessed SONOZAKI Mion. Even if he didn't see. Isn't it obviously Mion's doing? Now, settle down. This is what I'm saying. It means you are the only one who saw SONOZAKI Mion for sure last night. After all, Shion-san, the other witness, is no longer alive. What are you trying to say? I don't really understand. At that point, Ooishi-san paused. The fact that this was a no-smoking area completely slipped his mind, and he took out his pack of cigarettes again. Click-clack! He lit one up later, and exhaled a long stream of tobacco. Were you really stabbed by SONOZAKI Mion? Yes. There's no doubt about it. Smoke Ooishi-san breathed out, floated away. Thundercloud, swept away by the wind. Open here. Nurses will get mad. Actually, we found SONOZAKI Mion at the bottom of the well, too. But she fell to her death. We believe that, as she was trying to escape that hidden passage in the well, her foot slipped while climbing down the ladder. Fell to the bottom, broke her neck, died. Yes, same way as Shion. She broke her neck. Well, what? After you passed out that day, SONOZAKI Mion tried to escape using the hidden well, but her foot slipped and she died, as if beckoned by the corpses of the other sacrifices she dropped down there. But make any sense, does it? The autopsy came to the conclusion that she definitely died on that day. Didn't go back there after attacking you and Shion-san. She was already dead by then. Her jaw was on the floor. There was absolutely no way that could be. Mion was the one that stabbed me. It had to have been her. There wouldn't have been anyone else to do it. Then, who attacked Mion and me? Who was it? The one who attacked you. Someone who was Sonozaki Mion, and yet not. My mind had become a complete mess, and I was starting to lose my ability to think straight. Do you remember how Takano-san died? Eh? Eh? Takano-san? Yes. I think I heard she was burned to death in some distant mountains. We learned that she was burned after being strangled to death. The Gifu station did the autopsy. A little bit strange. The results of the preliminary autopsy said that she had been dead for at least 24 hours. Since that was contradictory, in their panic they seemed to have revised it to say she died earlier that day. Despite me being an absolute wreck over what was going on with Mion, he was telling me there was even more on top of that. I didn't understand the complex things Ooishi-san was telling me. The results saying she had been dead for 24 hours, as our own old criminologist says, is pretty damn reliable. So then, what would that mean? I've asked that question over and over. But on the night of Watanagashi, you were with Takano-san, weren't you? I was. You also met her on the day before while setting up for the festival, right? I mean, I ran into her too. Yes, I was with her then. If she'd been dead for 24 hours, then this would mean she was already dead the day before the festival. That can't be. She was alive during the festival preparation. However, when you all slipped into the ritual storehouse, Takano-san, already dead. The origin of all that happened. The beginning of everything. Our intrusion in the ritual storehouse, which I had come to regret countless times. The one who tempted me, Takano-san. When she invited us into the storehouse, was already no longer of this world. There are too many dead people walking around in this incident. An incident caused by a person. Is it okay? Yes, if you want. Oh God, sorry, I have not seen your replies. But yeah, sure. I'm probably gonna wrap up after the after party bit here, though, which that might be another half hour, though. So you know, but whatever you like. Incident caused by a dead person, ended by a dead. Also, apparently they're under pressure to revise the time of Sonozaki Mion's death, not to the day of the incident, but to right after she stabbed you. Probably pressure from the outside to get this incident wrapped up already. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't say a word about this. Ooishi-san grabbed his jacket that was hanging on the chair, put out his cigarette with the bottom of his foot, and started pretending to wave away the smoke floating around. I've stayed too long. I've come here thinking I could at least end this incident as it applied to you, but it looks like not even more baffling instead. Absent-mindedly, he walked towards the door, looking at me, unable to speak, out of the corner of his eye. If it so happens, something comes up you want to talk about in the future, call me anytime. My business card is in those souvenirs from before. When that time comes, I'll pay you a visit with some wonderful souvenirs again. Ooishi-san seemed to think I was still hiding something. That I, after all this, hiding something? I'm the one things are being hidden from. I'm the one who wants it. Oh, then let us meet again one day. Take care of yourself. I listened. Tap, tap, tap. Ooishi-san walking down the hallway. I still couldn't return from my state of bewilderment. He wanted to end this incident as it applied to me? What was over? Nothing was over. The incident. Still. Then, lip and arm covered in flesh, fresh blood came out underneath the bed. It wasn't that. It was an illusion. I was being seized with fear. Hey-chan, told you. I heard a guttural voice coming from under the bed. I still recognized it as me. What? That day, after today, if you see a demon that has possessed, you did. Said that, and sorry, guess I wasn't careful enough. That's why I got stabbed. Possibly wounds sustained when she fell from the ladder. Many of her fingernails broken and torn. Her arm slowly felt about on top of the bed, searching for mine. Hey, Mion. Just, well, thought of a good joke. Want to hear it? Mion under the bed didn't answer. But let's say I died here today. But tomorrow I'd still be here living a normal life. When ooishi-san learned about it afterward, the time of death wouldn't make sense once again. He'd make a huge deal about how someone who should have died was alive, and he'd totally lose his head. Takano-san, then Mion, then me third. So, funny, right? Makes you laugh, doesn't it? Hey-chan, laugh. Or was it that funny? Mion's blood-stained hand groped around, found my wrist. Though her fingernails were torn, she gripped it hard, as if scratching me. Ow, ow, ow. Go easy, ow. Hurts. John, come for you. I tried to shake my wrist loose. The strength she held it with was unbelievable, and I couldn't. It was only gripping one wrist, yet my whole body couldn't move. Couldn't even twitch. My fingers were spread apart. I couldn't make a fist either. And that fact that I couldn't make a fist reminded me of the restraining table. Felt a crooked nail press against my left pinky fingertip. Neon's forehead was split open, face covered with a smile, got right in front of my nose. Nothing was over. Nothing. This incident, far, still going on. It was still happening. Someone. Cruel, tragic, unfortunate, sad, and please end it. That's my only wish. I granted you one before, remember? Anyway. Jan firmly held the nail down on their hand, slowly a mallet up into the air, and kaboom! A new scenario has been unlocked. Okay, so the credits thing doesn't happen until Higurashi, I guess? Let's go to the extra. Thank you very much for enjoying Higurashi When They Cry, Watanagashi. How did you like the story this time? If you enjoyed it even a little, I'm happy. A little nothing? Not again! It was a huge bad ending again, was it not? It is enough to make me simply furious. I'm furious. Very furious. Oh, well, good work, everyone. That's how it ended, but don't you think the story was kinda like a Mion chapter? I'm extremely satisfied with how big a role I played. Oh, you poor sweet summer child. You cannot call such a thing a success. We got Daigar killed too, didn't we? None of this concerns Satoko at all, either. I didn't want to die like that. No, don't cry. There was a story centering around Mii-chan, so there will probably be one that centers around Satoko-chan too. Look forward to it. Satoko would definitely get attacked by a crowd of weirdo bullies and abused to death. I don't want that. Mii-chan, if you joke around too much, you'll make me angry too. He has. Your mind wouldn't understand even if it wanted to be. And then what? Oh, they expanded. Hey everyone! Great work. Sorry we're late again. Omitake-san, ooishi-san, yes, you did a great job as well, Where are Takano-san and Shion-chan? They're coming, of course. Thank you for inviting us today. May I sit here? Yes, go right ahead. With all of us here, this sure is to be the best part. Please go easy on me. Then, should we get started? Is this everyone? Everyone but Keiichi. Which means Mayabara-kun still doesn't have a portrait. So are we going to read the scripts for the next story immediately? How unfortunate. It doesn't feel right to leave him out. Mio-san, you don't have to worry about that. At times like these, going all out is actually a way of showing consideration. That's true, isn't it? We're all here for once. Holding awake would be boring. Then, sorry, Keiichi-kun, but we'll take things from here. It's decided. Okay, everyone, get the cups. Does anyone not like carbonated drinks? There's alcohol for the adults, too. Mika-chan, what will you have? Cola? Juice? Me. I want what Tomitake's having. Hey, Mika-chan, you're not allowed to drink. Has everyone got their cups? If we don't make a toast soon, my juice will get warm. Who will lead, Mion? Rena should do it. Okay, Rena, go ahead. And everyone, excellent work. The Watanagashi chapter is now over. Thank you! Wow! Clap, 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 clap. Okay, everybody's here. Shall we debate the story again? I think so. Then let's get some honest opinions. Does anyone here have something to say? An honest opinion. Was the story this time not an answer chapter? The criminal was Mion-san. The root of all the evil was the SONOZAKI family. Was that not the conclusion? I see. I was so sure that Mii-chan wasn't the criminal. Too naive. This was entirely predictable from the previous Onikakushi chapter, was it not? In fact, it is almost shocking how predictable it was. You're right. It probably did align with most of the prediction made by players of the previous scenario. It's like the story went exactly as everyone expected. Then, does that mean the main Higurashi When They Cry scenario is pretty much over? So it's a sure thing that the root of everything was Mii-chan's family? I wonder. In fact, I think that this all means I think that this all means the theory of the Sonozakis being the guilty party has been disproven. Oh, you had the same opinion, Mio-san. I think the same way. Oh, I still don't believe in curses. At the very least, however, I think the chances of the Sonozaki family being the true criminals has gone down. Huh? Why is that? Didn't Mi-chan confess that she killed everyone? That's right! She killed Rika and me, so what do you mean she isn't the criminal after all that? I'm not trying to confuse you or anything, it's just that I think there are a lot of things that don't go along with Mion being the one behind everything. If you think about it a little, you'll get it. Huh. I had believed the truth to be more or less in line with the Sonozaki family theory. I'd love to hear your theory, Mion-chan. But hear me out. Near the end, I confessed that I'd participated in past incidents, right? I thought something wasn't really right about that, so I guess that's my basis. I mean, think about it. If the incidents of the past were caused by the Sonozaki family, that would be crazy. I mean, wouldn't they all be perfect crimes? They were all attributed to other criminals or simple accidents, after all. Well, that's right. The Sonozaki family is very powerful, and they were acting behind the scenes. Wouldn't pulling off perfect crimes be child's play for them? That's it! That's just the weird thing! The Sonozaki family had been killing and erasing people so well for the last 4 years they didn't even let out a hint that they were behind it, right? But the incident in the 5th year? Now that was really cheap. They were killing and erasing people at random. Any idiot could have seen the connection with the Sonozaki family. Now that I think about it, you're right. The incidents in the past were all mysterious and nobody could tell if they were because of the curse or just simple crimes. But then, on the 5th year, they suddenly got really violent. I do not understand what you are saying, Rika, do you? He means that if the Sonozaki family were the real criminals, they would have done a much better job with the incident on the 5th year. So, what does that mean? Mion-san wasn't the one who killed Rika and... Mion-san wasn't the one who killed Rika and me, but it was the work of the demon who possessed Mion-san? Come now. Just like I thought last time, Mion-san wasn't a bad person after all, was she? That's right. Stantoko-chan and I both thought that she was doing bad things because she was possessed by something. Then does that mean our theory was right? I've been supporting the curse theory since the last after party, and the story this time makes me all the more convinced it's true. That fact revealed at the very end, the information regarding how Mion-san and Sakano-san had died days before, despite being witnessed, seems to indeed support that theory. Oh my, I see the curse believers, who seemed unconfident last time, have grown quite a bit more self-assured. Do any of those who think it was a human have any objections? Last time, Mi-chan and Rika-chan were the ones who thought it was the work of a person. Uitake-san did too, didn't he? Okay, let's hear what you've got then. You got me there. I can't quite find the right words. One of the pieces of evidence for the curse theory is the mismatching times of death, right? Oh, if I could just prove that theory, it would prove the human did it, wouldn't it? Oh, Shion, do you have a good objection? Well, I suppose. I have the same opinion as you, Mion, that it was a human, but I don't think the Sonozaki family were the main culprits either. If it's okay with you, I'll offer my objections. Whoa-ho-ho-ho! Show us what you've got! If you say it wasn't the curse, then let's hear your evidence. Okay, Shion-chan, that last trick we've been talking about. Despite Mion-chan having died the day of the incident from falling into the well, how did you appear days later to kill you and Geichi-kun? Here it is, my Sonozaki sister's conspiracy theory. My reason is simple. If Mion was dead by that time, then the only one who could have stabbed Kei-chan was me. I disguised myself as Mion and stabbed him. Then I went back to my room, pretended I would tussle with the ghost, then jumped right down and killed myself. So when you get down to it, Mion-chan in this case would be the one to take the blame. She would take care of the mayor in person, and Shion-tan would be made into merely a victim. If she hid herself in the well, the disguised Shion-chan could show up where she pleased and murder whoever she wanted, all planned from the start. I get it. Then Mion-san made two mistakes. First was that her corpse was found, and second was dying when she only planned to hide. That's what it would mean. Oh, well now, you're right. There is something logical about that. However, I'm still not convinced. It was too different from the magnificent perfect crimes in the past. Even if their plan went well, Mion would end up the bad guy, wouldn't she? She would either have to hide the rest of her life or live pretending to be Shion, wouldn't she? That would be too constrained. You can't call that a perfect crime. In other words, whether by dying or disappearing, Mi would have to go away. Nika-chan, that's a good thought. That means we should consider that Mion Sonozaki leaving the stage was part of their plan. That's why at the end, Mion took the blame for all the incidents in the past. She took responsibility for all of them herself, then left. By doing that, she could cover up the true culprit behind the past incidents. Oh, that's a good screenshot. Which means that this incident wasn't shabby. Its purpose was to cement all the past incidents as perfect crimes. I suppose that's what it comes down to? The young leader of the SONOZAKI family was the biggest suspect, confessed to everything and disappeared. For her, or perhaps the non-SONOZAKI true culprit, there likely was no more favorable outcome. I don't understand even an inch of your conversation. What do you mean by Mion-san taking the blame? Is she not the culprit? Let me put it this way. The true culprit behind the serial freak death incidents was somebody else. Mi-chan gave a fake confession that she caused all the previous incidents to protect that person, or so everyone's saying. My. I said this during the story, but it seems like we have an incredible detective on our hands. Yes, it does seem a bit persuasive. An incident started to throw the scent off the true criminal. That's my reasoning. Though, if I go further, I think the true culprit isn't part of the SONOZAKI family. So it was Mion-chan disrupting the incident to further protect the mystery person who pulled off the perfect crimes 4 years running then? That's right. The site foreman only appeared in the name in the last story. Pretty suspicious, if you ask me. Amazing! It really does all add up. Clap, clap, clap. I still think the SONOZAKI family and the sisters are the culprits, though. An incident caused by the sisters to sever their old fetters to the three families to clear away the past. That's my theory. Clearing away the past? You mean that they placed the blame for the three families' crimes on their final leader, Mion, to put an end to a dark history, and then the two of them left? Gion, you're making it sound like they eloped. You eloped. That's right. It would make it a sad story where we sisters finally choose to end it after a lot of worry. Aha, we went a little too far. Aha, we went a little too far. Amazing. It really does all that. You already said that. Clap, clap, clap. Wait, what? It looks like Nika-chan has an opinion too. Go ahead, Nika-chan. I have a question for you all. Why did Keiichi need to get stabbed? We already know why that is, Vika. It's obviously because he went to the forbidden storehouse without asking. Thinking back on it now, Tomitake-kun and Takano-san probably died in the previous story because they snuck into the storehouse, eh? Giggle. That is rather strange indeed. Huh? What is that's strange? Ah! Ina-san, that's right! Won't you think back, please? That's right. The previous scenario, they were after Keiichi's life even though he didn't sneak into the ritual storehouse. Well, that's because, yeah, Hinamizawa hates outsiders, right? That's why they tried to kill Keiichi-kun. That would be strange, though. They could have attacked Kei-chan's parents, too, in that case. No matter how you look at it, though, his parents never seemed to be in much danger. Either this time or the last. Hear that, everyone who thinks it was a human's doing? Unless you can properly explain the reason Keiichi-san's life was present, you can't definitely prove the criminal was human, can you? Even with the curse theory, however, we don't know why Mayaba-san was attacked this time or last time. With a little more, we would have had it. There are still a lot of mysteries remaining. Giggle. We could find some kind of reason for everyone but Keiichi-kun to die. But for some reason, Keiichi-kun's death is always vague. Both this time and last time, he was being targeted regardless of whether he went into the ritual storehouse. And does that not mean he was doing something that got him killed both last time and this time? I see. If we can find something in common about Mayabara-kun's actions between last time and this time, seems like it would be the key to unraveling all these incidents. Skim through the stories again, but I think he's going about his life in his own way. So aside from the part with the storehouse, I didn't spot anything suspicious about his daily lifestyle. Keiichi-kun, what did you do both last time and this time? Something bad that would cause you to be killed. It's best to ask the person himself when you're unsure. Oh, so while I was reading for the next game all by myself, you were all talking about me behind my back, huh? I see. Well, that's bad. Anyway, Keiichi-kun, you should try asking your own heart. Kei-chan, so what kind of bad things did you do that would get you killed? It must surely be all the violent things he does towards me. Squeezing my chest so tightly was surely a crime. Yeah, being happy all day surrounded by girls his age is kind of like a crime in the first place. A grave crime indeed. My boss-san truly is an envious main character, isn't he? Switch out with me once in a while, would you? Well, with all those perks, getting stabbed at the end isn't really much of a price to pay. Well, there you go, Keiichi-san. Have you remembered the crimes you've committed? Grah! Oh, this time and last time. I live a proper and just life, and I always meet a terrible fate in the end. What was that about ask my own heart? I'm the one who wants to know. This is bullying! How sad, how sad. I'll pat your head next time for you. I wonder if we should go back and read Onikashi again after reading this one. I'm going to put myself in Mion's shoes and read back over Watanagashi. Maybe I'll find something different compared to when I read it from Kei-chan's point of view. I will always think it was the doing of a demon. All of the events and tricks can be explained with a demon. It's kind of like plasma. What do you, the readers, think about it? We'd certainly like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Through the mail? Is there an address? Well, that was that. That was Watanagashi, the second chapter of Higurashi When They Cry. And next time when I do a Higurashi, we will be jumping ahead to Himatsubushi because the first one we played was chapter 3 instead of chapter 1, so we have now done 1, 2, and 3. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining me this night. Ice Curve, sorry I wasn't always as responsive. I got really into the reading, but I hope you have a good night if you're still here, and if you're not, I hope you're having a good night. And yeah, I think that's mostly everything. So until next time, I'm afraid that this is gonna have to be farewell.